All right, we just got the cooling fans. This video is going to be all about cooling for the Ls400 turbo build. By the end of the day, we're going to have the cooling fans mounted on this radiator. This hose cut and shortened up, and we should have all of the coolant and the oil drain. First thing we're going to do is get this battery tray out of here, because this is where the turbocharger is going to live. Get that over there. Interesting. The windshield washer fluid reservoir is right here, and there's a hole that looks about the perfect size to put the charge pipe in. Since we have seized bolts on that fan, both the bracket itself won't come off and the clutch won't, and I don't really want to just take the fan off without the clutch. So I don't really plan on putting this back on. We're going to go electric with the fans. For now, we're just going to cut it off. We're getting rid of that. Mount this. Wires facing bottom side. So now that we have our battery officially relocated to the trunk of the car, we're going to attempt to do some wiring and see if we can get these fans to turn on with the engine. Now don't worry, I know the exhaust is right next to the battery, but this is no longer going to be the exhaust setup for the car. All of this exhaust work that I did is going to be deleted, and some of it's going to be used for the turbo up front. As far as wiring up the fans, we got our connectors. One 3-pin connector with 2 blues, one with 2 grounds, or one with 2 grounds, one with 2 power. And then it's going to be a third wire that's going to make this 2 ground into 1 ground and 2 power into 1 power. And so we're going to find a ground source somewhere, and then we're going to find a power source somewhere. We're going to wire up the battery and see if we can get this whole thing running. This is how much room we're working with, which is still quite a bit. It's how much room we're working with down there. We can definitely figure out a solution, probably an even better one if we figure out how to reroute these lines for the transcooler. We're going to be getting our oil pan drain installed in the oil pan, which means the oil pan is going to have to come off and be resealed. We got our blow-off valve, and we got our blow-off valve flange or flange pipe. I don't think that does anything on the top, so it's just this vacuum port that needs to go on the intake. Blow-off valve mounted, and we got some other connections that we got to make once our intercooler and intercooler piping gets here. This is a little smaller than I thought it would be. We're gonna try it anyway. Yeah, this will really get, like, you know, right up in there. So I'm gonna show you guys what's going on down here. So we got the intercooler sitting here, kind of mounted, not really. We got a coupler here, 45-degree piping, and then that is going to have a 90-degree coupler go straight up into that hole with a straight piece, and then we're going to figure out routing up there. We're going to see what goes. It's the same situation over here. 90-degree coupler goes straight up into the hole up there and mount straight to the turbocharger with a straight piece of aluminum piping. Then you look at the front of this. So we've already got enough holes for some decent airflow, but I want to cut another hole right on the bottom. Look at that. That is good looking stuff. So in order to get this, so the rest of the piping over there, we're going to need a 3-inch 45 or 90 degree elbow. And then to get this to connect to this pipe here, we're going to need a 3 to 2.5 inch coupler. So we'll have that on order. This means just a little bit more waiting for parts. Now this is going to have to be shortened up quite a bit. So let's have a go at that. I'm going to make another cut, which is the bumper. That little slit that I was talking about. But it was. Airflow, or at least a little bit more of it. So that's mounted. Intercooler's mounted. This was a very messy process. I recommend you take precaution if that's something you're going to do, or if you're following along with this and doing a turbo kit on an Ls400 as well. If you want to go ahead and cut that for more airflow, I don't know how much more effective it is. That's just something that I'm doing because my head makes it make sense for me. So got a couple of things on order. The connection from here to here, which is a 3-inch 90 degree, I think we ordered. So we got a 3-inch 90 degree elbow coming in for that. That's going to be more secure. And then for here to here, we have a silicone 3-inch to 2.5-inch coupler coming in for that. So there's only a couple of things left to do on this build. Once our intercooler is fully mounted up, we will only have to connect our feed and return lines to the turbo, which we can't do until the vacuum line on the cold side is drilled out for our wastegate. Now our wastegate vacuum line length depends on where we route the exhaust to, and that can't be figured out until we do the exhaust. So we have the exhaust to build, we have the downpipe to build, and we have these lines to mount up. Once all of those things are done and we have our vacuum line and our wastegate installed and all of the piping is installed, then we should be good to run this. But before we do, we might have a couple of maintenance items that we have to take care of, like our valve cover seals, any other oil seals that I can think of that are quick and easy to get to up top, because it does seem that we have some sort of oil leak going on in this general area. Now, I do know that it is for sure this valve cover that is leaking. I do not know if that one is, but if we're going to be doing it, might as well do both. We're continuing with the turbocharger build. Things are looking pretty good on this end. We still got a little bit of work to do there. Get that all mounted into the intercooler. Now this is our little, and I mean little, T3. I did not know this was little. This is the first turbocharger that I've ever seen in person in real life. It's the first one that I've ever purchased. This, oh yeah, is what we bought to replace that. And this here is a T4 1.05 AR 98 millimeter turbo, or supposedly. So lucky for us, both our drain and feed lines do match up to this, which means we don't have to do any sorting with that. We do, however, have to get all new adapters and, you know, we went from a T3 to a T4 flange, dual scroll, so now we've got to find one of those with V-band adapters. Interestingly enough, they make an adapter that's going to fit this application a lot better for the T4 than the T3. I have luckily found an adapter that goes from this T4 dual scroll flange to a 90 degree 3-inch elbow that has the adapter for your wastegate, something that I'm running into. That hole there is not big enough for this outlet on the turbo. Plenty of room for this little tiny one. Not enough room for this outlet here. So what we're gonna have to do is open up this hole, make that bigger. We're also going to need a silicone step down. This is about 3.5 inches on this outlet, and that is 2.5 inches, or we're using 2.5 inch intercooler piping. So we're gonna have to do a step down on that. We're talking about these exposed wires here. We got our fuse box right here. The turbo will have a turbo blanket on it. We got some of this stuff, and this is heat shield for your wires. And assuming that your wires are already disconnected, you would just slide it over, and then you have a heat barrier protecting all of your wires. My wires are not all disconnected, so in any case this would have had to have been cut open. But the other issue with this is that this diameter is far too small for the amount of wiring, or the thickness of wiring, that is running here. What we will be doing is going to be cutting this to length, split it open. We'll cut another side to length, split it open, and we will double the diameter of this, and we will use our metal zip ties to close this up and have it stay shut. That is going to be how we're going to protect against the heat with the wiring that sits here and all of the wiring that is behind here for the headlight. So all of that is going to be covered in this heat shield, and that should take care of our heat management issue. I need to change this, which is the fuel pressure regulator. I need something known as a rising rate fuel pressure regulator. Just a little setback, you know, a couple of adapter pieces we got to buy for the new turbo and new fuel pressure regulator, and then we still have the exhaust fabrication to do. In the meantime though, we're going to get some of this heat management taken care of and grab some of our metal zip ties down here, and we're going to grab our split wire heat shield. See, I believe this is some sort of, not necessarily Kevlar, but it's some sort of material that yeah, we'll just call it heat management material. So yeah, we'll get this wrapped around our wires, get that zip tied up, get all the heat management done today. Now, this is probably going to be for sale. I don't know, $50. It's brand new, hasn't been used. I would hate to see this go to waste. I definitely don't want to see the, you know, if it does go to waste, I mean, I guess I could use it as like a decoration or something. No, I want to see somebody use this, all right? So I want this to be sold. $50. Can keep all the adapter pieces that I bought for it. Make it $60, all right? And that'll take care of this little guy, because I want this to have a new home where somebody's going to take care of it. Now this is here to stay. But right now, we got to get this and this out of here so we can start working on our wiring. We know the things that we need to change now, thanks to that Facebook group, the 1UZ, 2UZ, 3UZ Forced Induction Facebook group. They helped me out a lot with a lot of the information that I needed to know for this build so that I didn't waste more time and money trying. Is that overkill? Am I being a little too paranoid about the heat? Who knows? We still got a little bit, or well, we're just going to cover this up with aluminum tape and this heat shield material that we've been using. I'm just going to make a layer, cover all the headlight stuff up. But it kind of does feel like this is a bit overkill. I'm not sure, but I don't care. I want to be safe. I don't want anything melting or burning, and well, we'll see how this whole thing holds up. Cool. Anyway, I forgot I had this stuff, which is kind of like aluminum tape, or it's supposed to be some kind of heat shield tape or whatever. In any case, I never used it, but now I'm going to use it to tape up the actual heat shielding material and make that barrier I was talking about. Probably going to have to snip off some of the metal zip ties that I put on, so we'll see about that. Anyway, let's get this done. I think that's decent. I think that's good enough for our heat management purposes. Anyway, I'm finally working on the fabrication on the Lexus exhaust, and by that I mean I've cut up a bunch of pieces, completely removed the entire exhaust besides the headers and the little down pipes that I have welded up to the headers. That's the only thing that's left, and that's where we're going to make our connection from our driver side to passenger side, and then we have that little kick out on that piece that we've made. We have 2 flex pipes that we need to weld up as well, and then we need to start thinking about what location we're going to choose to make the switch from 2.25 to 2.5 inches on the exhaust, and then from there we're going to be working in the front of the engine, trying to get it to go from the bottom up. We're at full droop, can't get a finger in there at all. So this should be as far, or maybe a little bit more, as the suspension will travel. This does look really good lowered. I actually do want to lower this car. But that's another issue later. With this fully lowered or compressed, how much space do I still have? Is that control arm going to run into the exhaust, even though it's riding along the frame? I don't think so, but we're going to get underneath and take a look at that right now and check it out. Okay, so we're trying to go, exhaust is going to come up here somewhere. This is full tilt, so this doesn't go up that much further. And even if it did, even if this could go up any further, I mean, this is a pivot point right here, so it's going to travel more here than it will here. The only thing that I'm concerned about is, does any of the steering components, well, not really steering, but does the shock itself move closer in when you turn the suspension? I'm thinking it doesn't. This is fixed in place and the shock is attached to this. So this little gap area here on the outside of the subframe should be fine. The only thing I'm worried about again is whether or not any of these suspension components are going to touch it, and I doubt it because of how much room there is and how the suspension is designed. So we could run, or at least in theory, an exhaust through here. Now this is the driver's side. We're actually going to do it on the passenger side. All right, so just want to show you guys a little bit of what's going on. These exhaust pieces, of course, are some of the used exhaust pieces that were on the Lexus. This one we created kind of from scratch, not really. This is our little kick out. That's going to be what travels around the subframe and to the front of the engine up top into the turbo. This part here is going to be the passenger side inlet. This is going to be where the driver's side inlet comes in. They're going to come both out of here. route through and around a couple of things, and then go into the turbo. We need to figure out some measurements. So what we're going to start with is getting a V-band welded to the inlet on the passenger side. We will mount it physically to the car, and then we will take some mock-up pieces and mount those, and then we will tack them in place, come back inside, weld them up, and that's going to be our flow. Is this hot? No, not really. This has been kind of sort of cleaned up on the edges, the V-band surface, the clamping surface, and the mating surface. Well, not the mating surface, it's fine, but the clamping surface has been cleaned up. Most of the spatter is gone. It's actually really smooth. Very careful to try not to take off too much material so that we still get an even clamp. But this is the piece that we're going to weld onto this, and then we're going to go clamp that onto the car, and we're going to mock up our pieces from there. Now I'm going to go mount this up and see what we're looking like. Everything is fitting up nicely. Even the turbo, now that I've made this cutout, is sitting a little bit lower, so we might not have to cut any holes in the hood. I'm really considering getting a separate transcooler so that we can get rid of these lines. Or not get rid of them, just relocate them to a better position. Still got plenty of room in the front to do something about that. Plenty of room. Problem is it has no gas, and I only want to run it so that we can get out any debris that is left behind or that might be left behind from the exhaust that we've welded up to this point. Right then, so we just got the gas. Probably spilled about a gallon all over the side of the car. That's fine. Don't look at any of that. It's fine. It's fine. The crossover section is done. The kick-out section is done. We're now working on the section that goes through the suspension. So this entire exhaust project is kind of figure it out as you go, figure out the angles as you go. We have a rough idea, rough estimate of where things can go and how things need to be cut. But it's really just a bunch of cut, fit it, test it, cut it some more, fit it, test it, weld it, cut it, fit it, test it, you know, the whole process. So I'm going to put this down, I'm going to get to work, and I'm going to show you guys the finished results. Sun's going down, so it's time to get some of these welds done. Found the perfect location for our exhaust hanger. It's going to sit right up in there. You can see downpipe going into the crossover, other downpipe going into the crossover. The kick out is right here with the little flex pipe in it being held up by our exhaust hanger up there. Got a little bit of extra thread we got to cut off from here. Goes through the suspension where nothing is touching, and this is full tilt. The wheel can't go any further up into the body. It's already touching the fender actually. So this is as far as our suspension goes. Now I will mention we do have to do a turning test, meaning we turn the suspension full lock left to right and make sure nothing's hitting there. And then we come down into our 2.5 inch pipe here, which looks like it's touching our dampener, but it's not. We got about 3 millimeters of space between that, and then it goes straight up. Still do have quite a bit to do. We got our fuel system that we have to do. Once we take care of all that, we will be ready to get this thing on its first drive. It still runs. I've started it a couple of times just to make sure that it still runs. I kind of know what I'm doing, kind of. But yeah, we did do a lot of measurements and a lot of testing to make sure that nothing was going to hit the exhaust with the route that I chose. So we're in it. We're finally doing it. We've got the exhaust fabrication is going so smoothly. We finally got the final pieces to get the job done. This is what we've been waiting for. Now, I don't think it's going to work out like that. So, in order for our final pieces to work the way we need them to, that's our turbo. This is the adapter piece that we need with the provision for our wastegate. And the wastegate, in theory, would go right there, but unfortunately that angle is not going to work. Okay, so our exhaust is here. A little bit of space between the dampener and the end of the exhaust. We're going to come up underneath the radiator, and then here we're going to do some sort of magic, and we're going to get that to go into there. Now this eventually is going to have bolts and be bolted down, and then we need our wastegate to clear the hood. Now this piece itself clears the hood, and maybe if I got a shorter wastegate, you know, they make ones that are like, you know, thinner, whatever, but you know, maybe if we had a shorter wastegate, but we don't. We got this, and this is what we're working with. So we need to make this provision here horizontal completely, so that we have some chance of maybe clearing the hood and maybe not having to cut anything, but we will see how far we get with that. We do, however, need to pull out the turbo, because we do need to drill and tap a hole for the vacuum port that we're going to be putting on the housing of this. Now, there are people that do the vacuum on the actual intake plenum, but well, that's being occupied right now. Another thing that we have to get into is getting rid of this. This is our idle air control valve. This thing does not work anymore and was giving us all kinds of issues. So we're just going to go ahead and delete it. Now we're going to get started on this. It's time for some cutting and welding. We got our wastegate installed. Yeah, now we need it to be more vertical, and even if we were, I mean, oh, well, I mean, it's closed. So we're in the bedroom. We have drilled, tapped, and installed our vacuum port onto the housing of the turbo. Now we get this thing back in the car and get our lines ran to it.
So now I'm outside and I'm just mocking up a bunch of pieces that are random bends and twists and turns, trying to fit up what's going to best work for both the turbo exhaust outlet and the turbo exhaust inlet. I'm trying to make them work around the radiator hose, but we'll see how this whole thing fits up once it's all said and done.
So this is the exhaust inlet to the turbo. So this goes to the V-band that goes into the turbo. So right now we're just working with this, trying to get the right angles to get this to meet up with the rest of the exhaust that's already on the car. Alright guys, we are in the final phases of the fabrication, the cutting, the welding, the fitting it up. There's only a few more cuts to make and there's only a few more welds to make, and then we can finally get this thing started and hopefully see some spinning turbos. Once we see the turbo spinning, then we'll figure out, you know, fueling and our whole fuel system. This was the most challenging project that I've taken on so far, but I can't wait to get this thing started. So I'm gonna get you guys over there and we're gonna finish these cuts and welds, see if we can get something hooked up. All right, now I told you guys to stop looking so closely at my welds, but boy, we are in it. This is done. I mean, everything's kind of sort of hooked up. We are going to need some more heat shielding on our radiator here, and we're going to have to wrap our hose in some kind of heat shield as well, being so close to this exhaust system. Then we just need to get our gaskets for the drain and feed, install it, and then we're set. Oh, and then obviously we do want to run our turbo blanket once we get it. Old girl here is having some performance issues. Battery's dead. So all we're going to be able to do about that at the moment is to steal the battery from the Kia for just a second. We're going to start this thing up, let it run a little bit, rev it a little bit, get some of the debris that still might be in the exhaust system out, if it can even do that, because it's so many loops, twists, and turns. But nonetheless, we're still going to do that. And then we're going to eventually pick up some high temp RTV gasket maker, and we're going to seal the final piece of the turbo, and we can finally get everything installed and finally see some spinning blades, which is what I've really been excited for throughout this entire build. Turbo build is pretty much done at this point. I'm just really excited. So we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna steal the battery from the Kia, and then we're gonna get it in the Lexus. All right, Kiki, that is her official name. This is Kiki, that is Maxie, and that girl there is Burley. And today we're gonna get Burley some juice. Should probably get the other battery out before I carry that heavy battery and get that in here. One hand battery pickup. Come here, girl. Yeah. Just gonna borrow you. Thank you, Kiki. Right there. Huh. Let's see what we hear. Let's see what we do. See what's going on. And this is where our exit is for now, because obviously the turbo goes here and connects everything, but I don't think, aside from that, there's our oil return line in the way. Aside from all of that, I don't think there's anything in the way that should get hurt by seeing a little bit of heat right here. We do still have a ton of heat shielding to do in this general area, but for right now, I think just a little bit of heat shouldn't hurt anything. So let's go ahead and try to run this thing. So what just went down is we forgot to clamp up our oil feed and return line. Feed line just threw a bunch of oil pretty much onto the ground. I mean, there's some water here, so I have no idea how I'm gonna get that up, but that's a later problem. Main problem right now is that this thing does not want to stay running, and I'm not entirely sure why. All right, after we got defeated and wasn't able to start the car, well, today we're taking a look at the spark plugs, and all the spark plugs on the driver's side were completely fouled and covered in oil and possibly fuel. So we cleaned those off. We checked this side, the first cylinder, or I don't know, this cylinder here was clean. So we didn't check that one. We're checking this one. And if this one is also clean, we're going to check that last one, and then that'll be it. All right, we're going to give this one more try, I guess. Please. She's running. She's finally running. A lot of smoke. Thing ain't got no gas in it too. Yeah, we should probably get some of that. I don't think there's a vacuum leak as far as I know, but unfortunately, for some reason, if I take my foot off of the gas, it'll just die. So, maybe it might have something to do with the gas, but I don't know. I feel like that would just kill it no matter what. Don't worry about the temperature. That's the thing is disconnected, hoping that everything that's going on kind of solves itself. The idle's kind of adjusting itself right now. My foot's steady on the position. I'm not pressing any harder or any softer. It's in one steady position, but the idle keeps going up and then it'll go back down. So we'll see what's going on with this, but for right now, I think it's running fine. A lot richer than I was expecting it to run, but it's running. But the turbo's not on it. We're gonna get the turbo on it once we get the turbo fully sealed up, and then we'll try to run it with the turbo on it and see how that goes. All right, so this is what we are looking like. Stop paying too close attention to my welds, but there's a look at that thing. Look, you see that? Look at that. A turbo in there. Big ass turbo. It's great. Look at that. You know what that is. You see those markings? You know what these markings mean. You know what time it is. Garbage bag is officially on. So you must be wondering what's going on in my head right now. Well, we started cutting the hood before we even knew if this thing started. We cut it before we even knew that it would run with the turbo in this configuration. We don't know if it's gonna blow up. So perhaps this entire project was for nothing, but it looks cool. I think it does, or it will, in a, you know, we'll make it look cool. It's all come down to this. Man, oh my God. So we're gonna go steal the battery from Kiki. We're gonna throw it in, and we are gonna see if this thing explodes, which, we might blow some turbo seals. That could happen. Or, I don't know. I guess we're just gonna see what happens. Maybe it runs, maybe it doesn't. It most likely it's not gonna run right, but we're gonna find out. Can't wait. Let's go do this. See if we got some noises. What? It's running. Hold up. Oh, what? Got the fucking turbocharged Lexus. We did it, boys. Turbocharged, running, not driving yet because there's a lot we got to do before we do that, but running. Ls400, power steering is still in it, AC still in it, everything is still in the car. Look at that. All right, so update on the entire turbocharger build. We have just got the fuel system installed. I did forget to put our safety cover on, and we did get some water in here, and well, that's a little rusty, but we're gonna pull this whole thing apart anyway, get this hot side painted, and maybe even powder coat the cold side. Irrelevant to that, we got our entire fuel system set up on this. Maxie's helping out by charging Burley's battery so that she'll have no need to steal Kiki's battery, but for the time being we are going to go take that, put that in here so that we can adjust our idle and adjust our fuel pressure and figure out what we're gonna run. This is our brand new, even though it looks dirty, is our brand new fuel cell, which is running our return line. Ignore all the rust. So, feed is here, swooping down into our 30 micron filter, going to our fuel pump, snaking around up into our 100 micron filter, going above the subframe and along the original fuel rail path, all the way up into the engine bay, where I'll show you guys in just a second. And then we've got our return kind of routed the same way above the subframe along the original path of the brake lines going up into the engine bay. And I'm pretty sure the return line is also on this side, but I'm not entirely sure. The original OEM return. So that's that. Ignore all the questionable fabrication that you just saw under there. But we come over here. This is where our fuel feed is. Straight into the fuel dampener. We got the Banjo to AN adapter. And that goes to the crossovers and comes out to our fuel pressure regulator. We got hard AN coming out of the fuel rail. Fuel pressure regulator, got our vacuum, and then we have this side blocked off. On the bottom is the return line, which goes down around and goes under there. Ignore that. You didn't see that, right? Nobody saw that. We're gonna take care of getting some heat protection for this, and looks like we got quite a few leaks going on here. Power steering is always leaking. It doesn't matter how many times you replace the pump or the little check valve, which I believe I deleted on this. Yes. We got what looks like a valve cover gasket leak. So we'll deal with that. This side doesn't... Oh. Yeah, no, it looks like we do have a valve cover gasket leak on this side as well. These little plastic mounts that come with these electric fans, they suck. So we're gonna have to figure out a better solution. We might end up having to replace this radiator anyway. Perhaps there's a solution out there that is a radiator with electric fans already on it. Maybe there's a combo out there like that. Who knows? But I'm not entirely sure it would fit this application anyway, because we are very limited on space. All in all, not a bad job. So we still got to do our O2 sensor relocation, but for the time being, we're just trying to get this thing idling and running correctly. Then we'll relocate our O2 sensors here. We've already got these bungs welded on. We've successfully stolen the battery from Kiki. We now have Kiki's battery in Burley. All right, first run. Let's go, girl. Sounds good. Oh, choking up. I love this thing. I fucking love it. So the full A to Z on turbocharging your very own LS400. That is all we got for you. Now, on my specific LS400, there's a couple more steps that I need to take, because we have leaking valve covers, we have leaking power steering, we have leaking transmission cooler lines, and I want to convert those over to AN lines anyway. Same thing with the power steering lines. We're just going to convert this all over to AN if we can. We got loose radiator fans, which honestly I thought were... I don't know why I thought these little plastic connection thingies were going to hold, but we'll figure out a solution for that. We might just replace these two fans with a single unit that can get screwed into the radiator itself. Aside from all that, pretty easy install. Aside from that, that's all I got for you guys. Next video should be doing some burnouts, getting crazy with this thing. We do want to replace our wheels. The crash damaged ones are somewhere in the basement. We'll worry about that later. But thank you guys for watching the entire process. I'll see you guys on the next build, which is right behind her. Of course, we're going to do some burnouts and some crazy stuff with it, but you guys will see that eventually. In the meantime, go turbocharger LS400 and make sure you shoot some flames out of your hood.